Before we call the meeting to order, could I have a motion to move our organizational meeting to behind the proposals we're going to receive tonight?
So moved.
Motion. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? We will take that up later in the agenda, once we're done the items that are on our agenda. We'll move on to item 3. Minutes of the October 19th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. Have you had a chance to go through those meeting minutes? Any exceptions or changes? Hearing none, I'd call for a motion to accept.
Motion accept as is.
Have a motion, second? And a second. All those in favor? Thank you very much. The meeting minutes are accepted. Public hearings. A conditional land use application for Fairfield Storage LLC to construct an expansion on a self-storage facility on 7.47 acres of land at 204B Center Road on Assessors Map 1, Lot 39F in the Industrial Land Use District. Is there anybody here to speak to that public hearing issue?
It should be on.
Yes. My name is Chris Taylor. I'm an engineer with Sebago Technical. We prepared the application and the plan set on behalf of Patriot Holdings and Fairfield Self-Storage. I don't know if you guys, if I share my screen, can you, will you be able to see that? Or I can talk, I was planning on addressing the layout plan, sheet 3. I don't know if you have the plans in front of you.
We do have sheet 3 here, and we do have 2 large TVs in the room.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I just tried sharing, it didn't pop up, but I can kind of just talk to the plan if you guys have the plan in front of you. The site is located back behind the Irving gas station, kind of off the 95 exit. The site has 6 existing self-storage buildings that are accessed from the rear of that Irving. There's kind of a truck terminal in the back there. The access comes from the same truck terminal and would follow the same path. The proposed plan is to expand the existing facility further to the east as it kind of goes down the hill and approaches 95. The expansion would include about 42,000 square feet of additional self-storage buildings. They'd be all metal buildings, be very similar to the existing buildings that are out there now. We've made an application to the DEP for stormwater compliance. The application was a site law permit. We've also had wetlands and natural resources flagged on the site, and are going through the process with DEP now to get the appropriate permits for the site. Also on the call here is Tim Wilkins from Patriot Holdings. I don't know, Tim, do you have anything you would like to add?
I don't right now, unless there's any questions on our company or the property or plans.
So this is the public hearing portion of the meeting. So we're not at the deliberation portion of the planning board yet, but I don't know if anyone's on the call.
Anybody else want to speak to this issue during the public hearing session?
I've had only one person from the public reach out, and it was the representative for Irving Oil, Jennifer Daigle, and I did email her the site plan this afternoon, and she said that she may or may not join the call or have a representative on the call. So I'm not sure if they have a representative here that has questions.
Any questions or comments?
Representative from,
Go ahead.
Representative from Irving is on the line, but I don't have any questions at this time. I appreciate you forwarding the documents along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public on this matter? Hearing none, I would like to close the public hearing, since there is no more public discussion on this issue. And we'll move on to new business.
So ahead of them, we had the other application. It was request for the extension of time.
Yep.
Imans?
Yes, item A under new business, conditional land use application for MSD Guimon LLC, issued by the planning board August 7th, 2020. Request for an additional 180-day extension of time to start construction on the 7.37 megawatt ground-mounted solar energy generation project off Franklin Drive. Discussion and decision. Any discussion on that 180-day extension by our board? Any questions or comments? Yes.
When will the 180-day clock start ticking?
So currently, they are February 15th. It would start ticking after February 15th. They do intend to break ground in spring conditions. They're timber harvesting right now, but they're not going to be prepared to pull a building permit before February 15th.
Okay, good.
They're prepping the site for solar.
Any other questions or comments on that extension?
Is that the reason for the delay, was just weather and
I'm not certain.
licensing, or?
Steve or Chad, are you on the line?
Yes, good evening. This is Steve Barrett, representing the applicant. It's just details with project financing. There are a few issues, and the title and real estate closing things up for the purpose of financing. Those are really the details. But when we were considering requesting the extension, we thought we were really close to the time period, but we just we'll be ready to move forward pretty soon after the 15th, but be good to have that extra cushion.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would call for a motion.
Motion to approve the request.
I have a motion, second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. That item passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Also
Thank you
under
very
new,
much.
Thank you. Item B under new business, conditional land use application for Fairfield Storage LLC to be constructed on an expansion to the self-storage facility on a 7.47 acre parcel of land at 204B Center Road on Assessors Map 1, Lot 39F in the Industrial Land Use District. Discussion and decision.
What stream is that runs by it? I didn't know there was a stream there.
I believe that's a stream, and the engineers can answer it, but that crosses under 95 and snakes,
Is it just run off from the fields, or?
I'm sure it is, and there's quite a, after you cross 95, there's quite a ravine that drains, and it actually crosses Middle Road, goes towards, goes along the Escalon Drive, and dumps into the Kennebec, which is called Emery Stream, where it comes into the Kennebec near 95.
Okay. Because I went up there the other day and I couldn't see it. But.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on this proposed design on Center Road?
Fire chief submitted his letter and recommendations. It's in front of you tonight.
Do we have his letter?
Yep, I've had it on the table in front of you.
Shall I read this letter? Does Dwayne want to hear it again? The letter dated 1/26/21 from the Fairfield Benton Emergency Services, 15 Lawrence Avenue, Fairfield. Dear Planning Board, this is a $2 million plus or minus dollar project that adds approximately 42,000 square feet to an existing 22,000 square foot building for a total of 66,000 square feet of building space. There are multiple buildings, 16, with new construction being 40 by 100 single-story, using the National Fire Flow Calculations formula, L times W divided by 3. 40 times 100 equals 4,000 divided by 3 is 1,333 gallons per minute of water flow to extinguish one of these buildings if they were fully involved. This calculation does include contents. However, with the nature of these buildings' occupancy, it would be impossible to judge just what would be found in any particular storage unit. A passenger vehicle, riding lawnmower, power boat, or just fuel for the types of vehicles that would significantly increase this necessary flow and possible fire hazard. This property sits in the rear of an Irving truck stop and separates the truck repair shop. There is no direct pathway leading to the storage buildings when turning into the main entrance. For someone not familiar and no direct path, only a right of way through the middle of the parking lot, it would be difficult to find the road leading to the property. This could delay emergency response vehicles not associated with a Fairfield Delta ambulance. I would recommend the following. 1, a fire hydrant be placed at the main entrance off Center Road, and 2, a second sign be added to the right-hand side of the right-of-way just before the repair shop. Best regards, Dwayne Bickford, Fire Chief of Fairfield. With those recommendations, makes sense based on the size of this building. Does Sebago care to respond to that comment and request?
Yeah, we received the fire chief's letter today, and there's 2 comments, as you had indicated. One was about adding a fire hydrant. I believe the location he was looking for would be off Center Street, just near the existing truck entrance that's also used by the self-storage facility. And then the second one was about signage for the facility. I know that the applicant is on board with providing additional signage for this facility to make it known to both emergency services as well as customers of the location. And they're looking to add a sign at that entrance there to help identify the site. In terms of the fire hydrant request, I'd have to pass that along to Tim. I'm not sure if he's had a chance to read the letter from the fire chief as we just got it today.
Yep, and this is Tim Wilkins, one of the owners. Yeah, we just got the letter today, and I think we agreed to it. We just got to run some cost on bringing the hydrants in, but if that's a condition for approval, we're okay with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments relative to the expanded storage facility on Center Road?
I had one. I was wondering, do any of these buildings have any identification? There are flammable items in there?
Good question. Are flammables identified in storage buildings somehow, and/or is there lease agreements that prohibit storage of volumes of flammables, is the question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, in our lease, we do have provisions of what can be stored and what can't be stored. So we allow vehicle storage right now, and that's what the current facility was allowing. and we were going to just extend that to the new buildings, the same that was approved before. And with highly combustibles, there are certain things in the lease that are allowed and certain that are not. The exclusions of what can be stored on site.
So that is part of your lease, storage exclusions?
Correct. There's language in there that say what's allowed to be stored and what is not allowed to be stored. Each facility is a little different depending on the municipality. So off the top of my head, I don't remember which one's in the Fairfield storage lease agreement, but I can get that and provide that to everybody.
And/or within your lease, taking that a step further, is there any means for inspections of what's being stored in these buildings, or is it they sign an agreement and they can put in there what they want?
I'm sorry, I was losing you there. Something about inspections for the units?
Yeah, my question is, within your lease process that prohibits storage, I'm sure, of volume, prohibits storage of volumes of flammable liquids, is there any inspection process that you periodically check these units if you suspect that they might be storing, flammable liquids?
Yeah, so if the manager or somebody suspects that there is something that's not allowed per the lease to be stored on site, they do have the right to ask the tenant to open up the unit and show what's in there. But we have to have some kind of cause to go ahead, and we can't just ask anybody to open up their unit to look through their stuff.
Well, with that said, is there an on-site manager or is it an off-site management company?
So we do a mixture of both. We have off-site management, which is the main asset manager is off-site, but we do on this facility, because of the size of it, we are going to have an on-site manager as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments relative to this expanded storage facility? Chief, are you comfortable with the storage and lease agreements and inspections that they would have?
Sure, that would be no different than a single building warehouse.
Gotcha.
They're gonna tell you what's in there and then you trust, verify but trust, I guess you could say.
Right. And I guess the suspicions would be raised if fuel trucks are pulling up to these things and,
Sure.
yeah.
There's enough, this is a big enough facility, so people action will be going on maybe once a day or twice a day, people coming in and out. So if they smell something funny or whatever, they would, hopefully they would mention.
Very good.
There's no indication that this will be gated access either, is there? I didn't see.
Not shown on the site plans.
Actually, it does show it.
We plan, as part of the expansion, to fence off the site and put a gate on site to get into the facility.
So so every tenant that has storage there would have a key to this gate?
Yes, they have a code that they put into at the entrance to get in, and then the code to get out of the facility.
Okay.
And we also have security cameras that will be up and down each row of buildings. So we have visibility of the whole site on security cameras.
Good.
And the fire department will have to have access to that code.
Yep.
Correct, and then it's set up as a crash gate as well. So they'll have access to that code, but it's also set up that it's a crash gate.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Are you gonna have
Yes,
one
sir.
access gate this way in the back? Oh, one back.
I didn't catch that, I'm sorry, guys.
How many access gates are you gonna have?
I'm gonna defer, Chris, did we put, I mean, there's one main entrance, but did we put another exterior gate or any kind of access for fire on any part of the facility?
One here.
Yeah, there's one of the automated gates at the existing driveway now, that's proposed. And then the whole parking area would be enclosed with a fence. There's also another gate, down at the southeastern corner of the site, but that's mostly for access to, the stormwater management, basin that's being proposed. So really, there's only one, vehicular access point.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions or comments about this proposal tonight?
And the access gate is wide enough to accommodate trailers, trucks, and fire trucks and things of that nature, correct? I'm sure it is.
That's correct.
Thank you.
20, I believe it's, I can't remember if it's 25 or 27 feet on this, for this site.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board at this time?
It does need a sign, because I had a hard time finding it.
Yeah, it does need signage, thank you.
We agree. We that's one of the first things we're going to be doing is signage.
Okay, any other questions or comments, or I would call for a vote, a motion.
Motion to do.
One thing that I would like to add is that in the application, we requested a waiver for the number of parking spaces that are required for the site. In the town ordinance, this type of facility would, because I think it's listed as a warehouse use, would require parking spaces. But with the kind of the nature of the self-storage, there's a lot of parking that's available right adjacent to the units. And there was no existing parking spaces that were laid out for the existing buildings. So this is kind of a continuation of what occurs out there currently.
Nicole, that shows up in findings of fact?
Right. So once you take your motion to move on to findings,
Okay.
you can discuss that waiver.
Take a motion for that.
I'd make a motion to accept the application pending approval and implementation of the Fairfield Fire Chief's letter dated 1/26/2021 regarding the Fairfield storage expansion at 204 Center Road in Fairfield.
And that motion is to take us to finding of fact.
Yes.
Thank you. Second.
A second.
All those in favor? Okay, we're moving on to finding of fact. Conditional use findings of fact 2121, a file number COND 2021. A site plan to scale showing at minimum location of existing and proposed structures and distance from lot lines, water bodies, water supply, and sewage disposal facilities. That was submitted to the planning board with application sheet number 3. Next item, if the market value of the project exceeds $80,000, a copy of plans and specifications for construction will be required. Conceptual building and foundation plan included in this submission package and engineered specifies for construction with submitted to the local building permit application prior to the start of construction. Next item, existing topographical contours are shown on plan existing conditions by Sebago Technics. A proposed grading and contour intervals not greater than 5 feet on plan sheet number 4. A site improvements as shown overall site plan sheet 3. Pedestrian and vehicle travel ways and parking areas. Travel ways are shown on plan sheet 3. No parking shown. Vote to grant waiver. I would take a motion to grant that waiver for parking at this time.
So moved.
To accept.
The motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay, that motion is granted, which is a waiver for the parking requirements. Landscape and buffer areas as currently existing, no changes proposed. Stormwater and erosion control structures as shown on plan sheets 5, 6, 7, and 8. No water or sewer or power lines. Exterior lighting as shown on Hubble Plan 2027391, parentheses R1. An estimate of vehicle trips to be generated by the development and any modifications to the public roads which may be necessary to absorb the traffic. As described in Exhibit 6 of application, the proposed expansion is calculated to generate a total of 13 trips during peak hour. A statement from the fire chief that suitable provisions for fire protection have been included, submitted with the application and the chief's letter. A list of names and addresses of landowners within 200 feet of the property boundaries submitted with the application. Letters to abutters were mailed out January 22nd, 2021, notifying of tonight's public hearing on this application and accessible via Zoom. An analysis of potential environmental impacts, including effects on surface and groundwater bodies, air quality, and wildlife resources. If any potentially negative impacts are identified, the management strategy consists with the performance standards and the ordinance and the state and federal regulations must be prepared by a qualified professional. As shown in the Stormwater Plan, they've applied to the Maine DEP for a Natural Resource Protection Act Tier 1 permit for this site, and they have applied to DEP for a site location development permit for this site and DEP permit for by rule for this site. Nicole, is that part of a conditional permit, or is that not applicable?
Those permits are they're required because of that clause in our ordinance, and they've already applied for them, and
Okay.
they're waiting for their permitting. So
Okay.
it's a condition that they get those before they can, it's a condition of receiving this permit from you.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Vote to set as conditions of approval must receive approval of these permits, which is what Nicole is saying. An erosion control plan prepared by a registered professional engineer as shown on sheets 5, 6, 7, and 8. A stormwater management plan prepared by a registered professional engineer, a sea stormwater management plan, sheet 2-2, prepared by Sebago Technics engineers. Findings. The development will not create unsafe, unhealthful conditions within the neighborhood in which it is located and shall not create or exacerbate effects upon neighboring properties. This proposed self-storage facility expansion project in the industrial land use district has been designed to be in compliance with the requirements of that district. The development will not create or add traffic congestion at or below the level D service as defined in the and will not create unsafe traffic improvements on public roads. As described in Exhibit 6 of the application, this proposed expansion is calculated to generate a total of 13 trips during peak hour. This will not result in the creation of traffic congestion to the surrounding area. The proposed development does not require a Maine DOT traffic movement permit. Item 3, the development will not result in undue reduction of air or water quality or wildlife habitat and will not cause undue flooding or soil erosion. The proposed project will not result in reduction of air or water quality or wildlife habitat and will not cause undue flooding or soil erosion. See Exhibit 8 for the stormwater report and the set of plans for the project design and erosion control measures to be used. Item 4, the development will not, to the greatest extent feasible, preserve historic, prehistoric, and archaeological resources. There is no known identified historic or prehistoric or archaeological resources on the site. Item 5, the development will not cause an undue strain on public facilities or services, including public roads, water supply, sewage disposal, solid waste systems, police, educational, or other services. The project will not cause an undue strain on public facilities or services. The project does not require water or sewer. Item 6, the applicant has sufficient financial and technical capacity to complete the development. See Exhibit 4 in the applicant. The applicant is a commercial real estate management firm that specializes in the management of self-storage facilities throughout the United States. They have provided a loan commitment letter from Achaya Savings Bank as proof of financial capacity. Item 7, the development is consistent with the Fairfield Comprehensive Plan and in compliance with state and federal law, as well as all ordinances, rules, and regulations of the town, including the performance standards of the land use ordinance, unless the board acts to waive said standards. The self-storage unit expansion is consistent with the Fairfield Comprehensive Plan, and the site has been designed to be compliance with the town and state requirements. Conditions of approval. Fairfield Storage must obtain a Tier 1 Wetlands Alteration Natural Resources Protection Act permit from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Land Resources. And item 2, Fairfield Storage must obtain a site location and development permit from Maine DEP and Land Resources. And item 3, Fairfield Storage must obtain an NRPA permit by rule from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Land Resources. Those are the 3 conditions of approval. Are there any other, Nicole?
Other than the chief suggested they put in a fire hydrant, was his,
Okay.
but they were still exploring the cost of that, and I don't know if it's cost prohibitive to them at this point, or if they were on board with setting that as a condition.
I think the way it was languaged was it was going to be a condition of approval
Yes.
Okay.
for the town of fire
So you
department.
want it set as a condition?
Yes. And while we're on these condition approvals, the traffic there is horrible getting in and out of that space. I don't know who was jurisdictional in approving that original plan, but the tractor trailers that come off that exit and stop traffic to take a right and stop to let traffic come out, the traffic there is a mess. That back lot takes trailer trucks, and many, many times traffic comes to a complete stop to let trucks leave and let trucks go. And I'm seeing that this traffic impact is possibly minimal, but when it's bad to start with, what effect does minimal have on bad to start with? I don't know.
Well, I did reach out to DOT and asked Rodrigue if what they had said in their application was correct, and if we were not to require any permitting, and he sent me an email, said, does not appear that it's a change of use, it's an existing entrance, and it's adequate to handle this increase. That's his email to me, that it's adequate.
And that's from DOT?
Correct.
Excellent. Next time I stop there or get stopped there, I'll call DOT. Not the chief.
Nope. I'll be right behind you.
Yeah. How that never invited a turning lane, I'll never know. Moving right along on the agenda. So, with findings of fact done and conditions of approval listed, Nicole, do we now call for a motion?
Yes, you can take your vote.
Before we do, are there any other conditions of approval that anybody would dare to voice?
Can't think of any. There's no electricity out there, correct?
Although they are showing site lights. The individual buildings don't get power or water. They probably get power for lights, but there's no water or sewer.
Right, that was the light plan, it's the last sheet in your
Yep.
package.
Right.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Shows the schematic layout.
Hearing no other questions or discussions, I call for a motion.
Motion to approve with changes as indicated.
With the 4 conditions of approval, I have a motion to approve. I have a second.
Second the
I
motion.
have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'd call for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you.
Okay, so we might have a storm tomorrow, so you probably will hear from me on Wednesday with your permit, Chris.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Very understandable.
All right, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Going back to item 2 on our original agenda, annual organizational meeting and election by planning board officers. The planning board members shall choose by vote one of their members to be chairperson, vice chair, the other to be secretary in accordance with the Fairfield Planning Board bylaws, section 2.3. Can I have a motion on that item?
Motion to move forward?
Okay.
Okay.
We're moving forward, thank you. That's good, that's good.
Dwayne, did you want to be included? Did you want to be a member?
I take silence as yes.
Put my name in, but.
Yeah, don't leave the room, because there's a little, elect the one that left.
Right.
Good
I
night,
didn't
Chief.
show up one night and I woke up as president, so let that be. So a motion to keep existing offices?
That's what he said.
I have a question. Nicole knows what I'm going to ask. But I've started a Fairfield group. Now, if you've heard of it or not. Do you mind if I pass out the...
No, you want to, so you want to put your organizational meeting on hold right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Okay.
But I have contaminated water. My whole family has health problems. I've lost a dog from cancer. I'll pass it. Yep. And I've got
I didn't get one.
2 people. I've got Aaron. Oh,
Yep, thank you.
One more.
oh, one more.
Coming around.
I've got Aaron Brockovich from California working with us.
Isn't she the one from the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
And her, I guess, work partner, Bob Bolcock. He's a environmental specialist. But we've had, I mean, the state's paying for everything. They're starting to put filter systems in everyone's house that has contaminated water for nothing. I mean, I know they screwed up. They're the ones that authorized the farmers to spread this sludge. So I'm not going after Fairfield, I'm not going after the farmers. We're going after DuPont, you know, the ones that started the chemicals. And the state should have done more research before they approved it. So right now, the state's kind of handing that, have anything you want, pretty much. Still, my value of my property is probably nothing. Who's gonna buy, I can't have a garden. You can't have your hay for your animals. You know, this has been going on for 30 years or more. So we are trying to get like 300 or 400 Fairfield residents to join our group because we're going to fight it. And numbers make a big difference. I mean, these 2, Aaron and Bob, have been doing it for over 20 years. And it's all over the United States. It's not just here. Unity has the same problem. I mean, I bet Benton does, Albion. and nobody's telling them. I mean, there's supposed to be 70 parts per trillion. We've got some out on the Howell Road. It's over 20,000 parts. That's sad.
How bad is yours?
Mine was 1,200. Yeah, I've been feeding it, we're drinking, my alpacas drink it, our chickens. It just ain't right.
It's a sad day when the guys in charge, and this is nothing new in Fairfield,
No, it's not.
okay, because when DEP allowed, while they were allowing this sludge to be spread, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the source the sewage treatment plant sludge?
Yes, Hootamaki, yeah, wherever this sludge comes from, Hootamaki, Sappy.
Right. Well, they all dump into the Waterville sanitary system.
Yeah.
That all ends up at the Waterville Sanitary District down on Water Street, and that sludge is what they load out. And back in the 80s and 90s, they were paid people to spread it.
Yeah, they're paying them to do it,
To
yeah.
get rid of their product.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it ended up recently up to Hawk Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay. And DEP, if you recall, back in the 70s, allowed fly ash pits to be filled in gravel pits and licensed those spreadings and authorized that trucking and that spreading. And lo and behold, oh my God, we have an unclosed fly ash pit. What are we going to do? With a little bit of discussion and a whole lot of blackmail, they decided that they were going to allow SD Warren to close the fly ash pit on the Middle Road with a clay cap, which they did, they paid for. The cost was just under $500,000, but they saved $250,000 by not putting a rubber liner. So DEP allowed a lesser standard closure to start water monitoring. In that program, they've never found contamination, and they've been testing water there for 25 years. But that's just an example of, it's okay to do this, we license it. We have no idea what's going to happen, but we license it. Same thing with these chemicals.
Yeah.
And the poor farmers and the neighbors and the landowners, again, take it on the chin because this was allowed to happen. So yeah, they should pay for filter systems. They should pay for water testing. They should pay to clean up. But, landowners in this case feel, almost bankrupted.
Oh, yeah.
To the fact that this water in the soil is not usable. But we got family farms in Fairfield Center that are in the same situation, that they're trying to make a living doing this, and their family is struggling
Right.
to find a use for this property. Interestingly enough, we're seeing solar farm companies come to our area extensively. And if you read the PUC documents for best applications for solar farms, it's on distressed properties, landfills, gray wastes, and these kind of things. So it's sad that we have to deal with this, but the solar programs are going to probably start to capitalize on these properties that can't be used for something else. Okay, so believe it or not, there could be a revenue stream there someday for the use of these properties. But absolutely, I hear you. It's a sad
Well, I
thing.
think your daughter, daughter-in-law has joined our group, I believe.
Who was that?
Can't remember. her name.
You mean
Lives up on the,
How Hill Road?
no. Violet Road, Violet Lane.
Oh, Violet Lane, okay. Probably my daughter Kate.
Yes,
Okay, absolutely.
she's joined our group.
Everybody should join your group because guess what?
Well, what I'm pushing for is I want every well in Fairfield tested, period.
Yeah.
You don't know, you can't tell me you know where that water's gonna run.
And the problem is when they were spreading this product, it went on a truck, it got dumped in a field, it got loaded and
I got a
spread.
whole big pile in front of my house.
Of the same product?
Oh, yeah, across the road.
Oh, okay,
They don't know what to do with it.
right.
So what are you looking to do, Lawrence? Just basically get the word out and have people with drilled wells? Because I'm sure there's a lot of them.
There is, I mean, we're going door to door, it's on Facebook, we're gonna start hanging up in stores. But what we're telling everybody is you have to call Molly King at DEP and keep arguing with her because she said, oh, we can't test every place. Well, guess what? You're going to.
So is the test, DEP comes out and does the test for the water tested through DEP for nothing?
The state pays for it.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well,
They canvassed the Middle Road a week or so ago. They were up there when that oil spill happened, interestingly. And they were checking down the Middle Road around those farm fields.
Yeah.
And they got the Egypt Dosty Farm, which is next to our hangars,
Yeah.
and they're contaminated. They're running
Yeah,
it.
because they had to get rid of their milk too, right? Cows,
Yep.
same
Yep.
thing.
yeah, because they spread a lot of their manure all over.
And what are the farmers gonna do?
Jesus
It
Christ.
was touted and marketed as free fertilizer. That's what it was marketed as.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
We'll pay you to do it. We'll
Okay.
pay you to take it. And that is I think, a gross misrepresentation of what this really was.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But these two people, that's all they do. It's but not just this kind of, but a lot of them, but,
Yeah.
and they win. But it takes them years to,
Now, if they stated to you that they can't test everybody's water, no, they will test everybody's water, because
Right.
they need to tell us the extent of this contamination.
yeah. They're telling a bunch of Jim Duty, a bunch of them, they say, no, we're not gonna test your well because you're not in the right area. Bullshit.
You don't know that. How do you know?
You don't.
You don't.
It may be fruitful for you to call a meeting with this group, wherever, and start putting some demands.
Well, we are. Bob is talking to the state. They're actually talking to Washington, getting their support to change what's required. You know, I think it's New Hampshire's down to like 20 parts per trillion. We're at 70. It shouldn't be any, but I don't know if you can get it at any, but they claim you can.
Right. But when the standards are 50 times the minimum, something's
The
wrong.
Howe Road is terrible.
Oh, is that right?
That's
See,
the worst numbers I've seen so far.
Which road?
Howe Road. I don't know why, I don't know where it comes from, it's from
There's farms up there.
It's all those big farms up there.
but, no, we're gonna go right to the end, we're not gonna give up.
Yeah,
But I
no.
mean, if this affects my job here at the planning board, I'm willing to step down, but I'm not gonna,
No, I think standing up for your rights and protecting your property,
I mean, the town of Fairfield is part of, it belongs to our group.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, if there's anything that we can do, listen, we strive to enforce this ordinance to keep these problems away from us.
Well, what I'm hearing a lot of residents right now complaining because why are we paying taxes, so much high taxes on land that's worthless? Well, it's not the town of Fairfield's problem. It's not their fault. But what I'm being told is, in other states, the state actually pays your taxes for you until they get it cleaned up for each individual.
Because this isn't just Fairfield, right? I mean, this is, like you said, nationwide, this
Oh,
problem.
yeah, it is. Arundel has the same problem.
Arundel's been years fighting this issue.
Yeah, they tested the
Why
soil,
would-
they didn't test the water down there.
So why wouldn't DEP just make it a point of standard to check for these?
Because they're sticking their head in the sand. They don't want to admit anything. They're really terrible. But they're run by the state, are regulated by the state.
Right.
So we've got to get the state to support us all the way.
Well, you get to the legislature through your representatives.
Well, we're trying, but they're kind of hanging their head, oh, I don't know what to do.
Well, they do know what
Well,
to
then
do.
get somebody elected that knows what to do.
Yeah.
There
It's
there
not
are,
that
there are
hard.
super funds out there that
Yeah.
take care of these issues.
Exactly.
If there's no individual responsible party, like, for example, the fly ash pit,
Yeah.
it was SD Warren that stepped up, that owned Kimberly
Right.
Clark and Scott Paper, and they were the responsible party, and they did. They paid for the closure, they paid for the water monitoring, they're still paying. In this case, if it is Waterville Sanitary District, the responsible party is a nonprofit, organization that runs a sewage treatment plant. However, I'm sure there's some culpability out there that they generate this product, whether they knew it or not.
See, they say DuPont knew about it, and they're the ones they're going after.
Okay,
They feel the state's gonna end up going after them and getting all their money.
that is correct.
You know,
That
it
is
kinda goes up, you have to start somewhere.
If, again, this board represents the ordinance, what you're living through is not
I
allowed.
got a tumor, I gotta have removed, and I'm assuming I don't know if it's from that or not, but, you know, it makes you worry,
Yeah, absolutely.
so.
I don't think there's anything that would come before the board that would cause a conflict of interest on this.
There's no
I don't
conflict
think so,
with
okay.
you with this board. Okay, you're standing up for your rights, and you're enforcing the ordinance of, let me correct me if I'm wrong, thou shalt not pollute. Okay, we've been down that road before, water, air, soil, okay? So you got 2 out of the 3 that we know of. So, no, you're well within your rights. We support you wholeheartedly, and we live in this town too. And how can we represent this town for developers and development, you know, if we have these kind of issues that we're not on top of and aware of?
Well, it's definitely gonna turn people away from coming to Fairfield.
In those areas, it will have a ripple effect. Whether they can get to environmental cleans, whether they can sift the soils, whether they can,
Well, they gotta come around and test all our soil also,
right.
you know, test our blood, see how much is in, you know, in our bodies.
There should
Your
be no,
livestock?
there should be no limit of
Test your
testing.
livestock?
Big Ben?
Test your livestock as well?
No.
No.
There should be no limit of testing.
Yeah, okay.
And you're right, they should test everybody's water, everybody's soil.
I think so, because we have a lot of people that scat now.
Yeah.
They don't dare to drink the water.
That is correct.
I wouldn't.
And again, how would you know?
Dude.
How would you know?
I think there's only one place in Maine that tests for these chemicals. The state, DEP sent in theirs down in Massachusetts to be tested. I think they should get like Northeast Lab licensed to do that.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have that amount of testing, absolutely. What's the ultimate solution?
Well, if we put these filter systems in, supposedly, you know, they put I can't remember what you call it, it's a big canister, it's a filter that takes the larger deposits out of the water before it goes into your water softener. Then it goes through the first charcoal tank. And then that goes into a second charcoal tank. Well, the first one's supposed to come out 0 and goes to the second one in case there's any leakage through. Then when the first one is too full, they take the second one, replace it with the first one, then go get another one, refill it. That's supposed to take care of it.
What's the cost of a system roughly?
They're maintaining, I don't know, they're paying for it and they maintain it the rest of our lives, so.
Wow, okay.
Is that what you've got?
Yep. But they're saying there's another system they should be on to guarantee that it'll be 0 all the time, but DEP hasn't agreed to that one yet.
Keep us posted, appreciate the information, absolutely, and you are right.
I haven't dug well, so I'll join you.
Yeah, no, everybody that tries to drink the water there should, absolutely. And again, what happened 25, 30, 40 years ago?
Judas Priest, yeah.
You know, we allowed stuff, we weren't aware of what these products did or what they were. And that's real sad that
Oh, it is.
being a rural community, we have to live with the results of, I don't want to say negligence, but also, but at least,
Well, it almost sounds like these corporations know what the problem is, but they don't care because they just want to make money on their product. And there are ways of changing it to make it safe. It's an expense, but I think people's lives should be worth that expense.
won't all the DEPs of all these New England states join a class action against
Well, you'd think they
these?
would.
Well, I think they have to, because if
too.
they start paying the cost to clean everybody's well and
Well,
so
the
on.
state's paying for it.
Right, but that's coming out of a super fund someplace.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, eventually that money runs out, but the liability's still here.
Yeah.
I hope that the attorney generals of these states are looking close and getting ready to take action
Yeah.
to reimburse the state and/or individuals that have to live with this contamination issue.
That's a good point. Have you talked to the Attorney General's office? Have you talked to the Attorney General's office about any of this?
Bob has.
Okay, so those people.
Those people know who to contact.
Oh, absolutely.
If you haven't watched her movie, I suggest you watch it.
I did
Almost
long.
identical to what we're going through.
So at this time, just join you on the Facebook program to get listed up, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about your representatives for this area? How,
They don't even want to talk about it.
why?
No, I talked to Dick Bradtree, because I know him from,
Yeah.
he's representing Vassarboro.
Yeah,
And he's gonna try and see if he can get something started.
but what about the Fairfield representatives?
One of our group members contacted them, they said it was like talking to the wall. So I don't know.
You know what you need to do?
I don't think they really know what to do.
What I'd do is I'd get that group together and I'd bring the elected.
Well, we're gonna get a petition signed after we get all the people on our list.
Okay.
And then demand a meeting
Fine,
with everybody.
fine.
You know, it may have to be through Zoom, I don't know, but
I'm sure if you contact the town manager, the town will be supportive and cooperative to allow you to have meetings or whatever you need. This is a Fairfield issue, okay? And you're right. It needs
I mean, we're having Zoom meetings like every other week now, but
Getting good at it?
actually, I've got a lady down in Portland that runs it for me, so.
Well, good. We'll absolutely be watching. We will get on this website and get signed up.
Yeah, it's on Facebook, so.
Absolutely support what you're doing. Okay? Again, you shouldn't have to go through this at all, and you also shouldn't have to go through this alone.
Well, I didn't know about it until a month ago, so.
Yeah, I know. No one knew about this. There was rumblings about it, well,
Tozier knew about it back in February, but,
a year ago. Yeah. But that was a surprise to him.
oh, yeah, it was.
Okay? He never.
But he's got his own lawyer, so.
Yeah.
So I've got, these guys are getting us a lawyer that they know is good at handling this stuff.
How are you paying for this? Is it, are you,
They're not, they don't charge us anything. That's what they do for a living, they got, you know.
In class action, they take a percent of the take, is what.
Well, yeah, they'll get paid
Yeah.
when they're done.
so they must believe in it then?
Oh,
The
oh,
evidence
absolutely.
is, the evidence is science.
Yep.
Keep us posted, good job. Stay on, help Fairfield through this issue. Any other questions or comments about that? With city water, city sewer, we don't have those issues, but we're a rural town.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate you keeping us posted from your initial response to that issue. Back to the agenda. Annual organizational meeting. We had a motion.
Okay, can I just get you to repeat the motion, because I guess I didn't get it.
I don't think you did you?
What's that?
Did you make a motion? Because
I was just, well, I said, when I looked at it, I was reading it, I thought, well, okay, I'll move forward, like discuss it. Is there anybody that wants to, you know, be the
Step up.
vice chair? Who's not here?
Yeah, right.
Terry is not here.
If there's anybody that would like to, you know, serve as the vice chair, I'd be more than happy to. It's not a lot of work, but it can be when you get some riled up folks in here that.
Yeah, but that's when we need people, when we have riled up
Yep.
folks. So
Yep.
that's when we need, especially this issue coming up.
Yeah.
You know, this may be something this board may have to deal with sooner or later.
Yeah. No volunteers? You have the secretary title, I don't care.
Well, I'm not voting tonight, but I thought I read that we were re-upping the current slate.
Is that what you heard?
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Okay,
So that's the motion
that's the
to,
one. And again, we have this choice to continue the existing slate, or if someone wants to make a change, the board is open. I take a motion of a change, or I take a motion of as is. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to be here all night.
I will make a motion that the board members currently serving in the positions, chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary remain for one more term.
one more term?
I'll second that.
I thought you were sleeping over there. You weren't.
He's paying attention. He's paying
Okay,
attention.
what's the vote?
All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Dwayne wanted to join too.
We should have made Dwayne something, yeah. Oh, Dwayne wants to join the board? Really? Okay.
Isn't that what he said? He
He
said,
says his name's in. Right now, we have our 5 regular members, and we have 2 alternates. We have Jeff and Perry voted tonight for Terry. So we don't have an opening right now, but should an opening ever come up,
okay.
he's kind of sitting out there on reserve, he'd jump back in
Very good.
Okay.
Nice,
as an alternate.
That's good to know.
What he knows.
nice.
So the motion was 4-0? Passed?
Yes.
Okay. Are we on clerk yet?
Are we on clerk yet?
Item 5.
Not too
Item
much
5, thank you.
7, item 7.
Okay, items by the, unfinished business? Hearing none. Item 7, items by the public, clerk or members?
Okay, clerk.
Clerk.
I got a last-minute submittal by Jim Coffin on our Mountain Avenue subdivision. The developer would like to add 1 more apartment unit to the subdivision. I believe Jim is on the line with us. So notice to abutters is not needed for this type of amendment of 1 dwelling unit. So I don't know if you're comfortable tonight. It's 2 additional parking spaces, 19 and 30. This just got bumped out a little bit. And within the footprint, the exact same footprint he's presented to you, he's added 1 additional dwelling unit. So if you want to...
Okay, that is a minor change, and it is a late entry into our agenda, and
You want to talk about it? Jim, are you here? He might have,
No, he left the meeting.
okay. He
I
left the
don't
meeting.
blame him. Yeah, this is an item, if the board is comfortable, we'd take a motion. They're meeting the parking requirement, they're adding 1 more residential unit in the Hill House, not the Hill House, but, what's the name of the project?
The Mountain Avenue Apartments.
Mountain Avenue
But it's
Apartments.
in the
where
former
is it? It's still in the same
sanatorium,
floor? Footprint?
that
Yes.
sanatorium building,
Yeah,
the brick building
right.
at the top of Mountain Avenue, number 50 Mountain Avenue.
Yeah,
So that addition's still not changing the footprint of the building,
Nothing with the building is changing.
just a parking space?
These 2 parking spaces at the end got added because for every dwelling unit, the planning board said they wanted 2 parking spaces for every dwelling unit.
so he's adding 1 in the 2 parking spaces.
And that
Correct.
doesn't add anything to handicap parking or anything, right?
No, just regular parking. His ADA parking is still on the second entrance,
Yep.
still up against the building.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, then I
We'd
would
take a
just,
motion for that if the board...
Take a motion to accept it.
I have a motion to accept that added residential space with 2 parking. I have a second?
A second.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
okay, I do need you to sign it though, so you guys can pass it around.
Yep. The
You all have a pen?
I don't know if it's black or
regular
not.
ink?
Regular black ink or,
If you have black ink, maybe put a manila folder underneath. So just leave the top one for the chairman, and then the chair can add the date.
I don't think mine, I think mine's blue. It
That's all right, blue's fine.
is, okay.
Those are the special pen, I think.
You should sign second, so I'll sign third. How's that?
Sounds good.
While that's going around for signature, still on item 7, are there any items by members?
I wasn't done by items by clerk, but if I could continue talking.
Clerk has more.
One more item, but I'll let you finish signing, and then I got one more thing, and then we can move on to members. Thank you.
Is there anybody on the line?
I'll bring it over to you.
There's nobody online, is there?
No, Jim Coffin, the engineer, is online, but
Battery's running
our
low.
discussion along.
The battery's running low.
It's just, you know, and I guess, Kevin, you may know more about this, but I was kind of surprised at their the solar panel, the request for extension based on financing and everything else. I mean, that seems to be the common thread.
What's happening in the solar business isn't a financing issue anymore. I read recently in the paper that the company on 201 raised $100 million for financing future projects. $100 million. What's happening is,
Can I finish item by
Please,
clerk?
go.
Okay, sorry. So the town council has recently taken up reviewing the comp plan that was discussed in 2014 and adopted for the town. And so an item brought forward when they started reviewing the land use portion is they're finding that there's not, in our comp plan, it was specifically said that opportunities for business development may exist along the town's transportation corridors, Route 139, Norwich Walk Road, and Skowhegan Road 201. But when you look at our land use map up on the wall over there, you see it's like after the green village area on 201 along the river, it's all baby blue and white. That is not commercial. So you can't put business development in that district. So it's been brought to our attention that perhaps along those state highways, that particular one, just, you know, the land that fronts the highway, that it would give property owners an opportunity to sell their land for commercial use, especially now if some of them have contaminated soils and want to sell their land for commercial development. It puts the land, if we do a map change, it puts that land in the commercial land use district. And on Norwich Walk Road, all the way up to the Melody Ranch. So you see the green on Norwich Walk Road, a little bit of the village area. Above that, it's all baby blue, all the way to Middle Road. They're proposing to change that to the Peach commercial land use district. So it would look more like this layout. It would be more Peach on 201, and after the village and Norwich Walk Road, Peach to the Middle Road, up to the Melody Ranch. So that would open up some commercial opportunities consistent with the comp plan. So that's a discussion that the town is looking at, trying to be more consistent with the comp plan. The council's trying to review it and see what would help achieve some of the goals of the comp plan. So if the planning board is in agreement with it, we could talk about it now or talk about it in another meeting and maybe take a vote on it to recommend to the town council that they do a map amendment for that land to help encourage more commercial growth in those areas, if that's what you're interested in.
Do the taxes go up when they change it?
No, it's just a mapping change.
Okay.
What causes taxes to go up is a change of use and a change of occupancy. Okay. So until something is actually, I mean, just because somebody sells their land, until there's a commercial use, it would not.
Okay.
So that was what was brought up, and I think Kevin attended that meeting with the council.
we attended by Zoom, and yes, we did do that suggestion through Nicole's office. And yes, it makes sense. We've got to capitalize on these corridors that are state. The roads are built to take traffic. The roads are built to take commercial. We need tax base. We need jobs. We need mill rate. We need to lower our taxes. So it's a smart move to take these corridors and beyond and be ready to accept commercial development. Now, keep in mind, we've got the gas pipelines out there now. We got sewage run all the way up towards Shawmut now. We have to use these corridors to our advantage, and I absolutely support using these commercial corridors for more commercial development and tax base.
I agree.
I don't disagree with any of that, but it just seems like, you know, just kind of like, I'm the kind of guy I'd like to think about it and the unintended consequences for the other abutters and all this other stuff, because if one does it.
Correct.
This does affect the farms and farmhouses, and, but especially with this chemical issue we're dealing with, the resale value to these properties on these corridors, because of this chemical issue now, makes them more developable for commercial that doesn't require a lot of running water and soils that aren't contaminated.
Like an auto sales lot. It takes a lot of square footage, to display those vehicles.
Yeah.
But with a water filtration system for hand washing and toilet flushing, a business like that with high visibility
Yeah.
on those state roads.
And you got to be thinking about developing resale marketability for the property owners that are stuck in this mess right now. That they have an alternative for commercial or industrial sale or lease or use to help keep the values of the properties there. And agreed, a thought and a
Just
consideration.
a discussion starter.
Yeah.
We could take it up in future meetings. Map amendment still needs to go to town
Maybe
council.
if we just had one meeting where we just, if we don't have it on the agenda, just talked about that, because, you know, the solar farms are fine, you know, they're really, but they're popping up all over the place now, and
They are.
you drive by and you just see, you know, miles and miles and miles of solar, you know, it's not even trying to hide any of it, it's just kind of one of those things that, like you said, it's perfect for the,
Right, our ordinance requires buffer zones, and we can enforce and do buffer zones in
Yeah.
critical areas. Keep in mind, one example, when I went to Waterville 6 months ago for a solar program, a community solar program, mayor said, no, we don't want to look at solar panels. Oh, well, all right. When he found out the alternative was like a trailer park, they decided that solar panels would be.
oh, I don't disagree with that, Kevin, it's just that.
But the point is, when we went to the council in Waterville and said, look, this solar company is going to pay my tax bill times 90 for the solar panel value taxable. So it's a consideration for these towns to look at this revenue that has no expenses to the towns, there's no roads to plow, there's no kids in school. So it is and we were, the gas line was another good example, tax revenue. So it may be a good fit of revenue coming from taxation for solar farms now on properties that can't be used for anything else, unfortunately.
I agree with it, but my point is that I'd just like to have some more information about what
Oh,
is
yes.
the
Oh, yeah,
unintended
we're not
consequences.
voting on that tonight.
Is just putting it out there, that the
Discussion.
town council talked about it. I'm just letting you know they would like the planning board to open the discussion, talk about it, so I could put on it the
Yep.
agenda as a new item in future meetings. We'll put the developers first, but then we can open the discussion about that. And, you know, if it gets to a point where, you know, you feel it's not necessary or feasible, then that's what goes back to the town council, that you know, it's,
I know years ago that people always used to talk about that, be the commercial area, but it never went there.
for future growth. Yeah, and it was
But
said,
it never
and,
seemed to go out on Western Avenue.
Right.
I don't know why it's never developed up there. Maybe because it didn't have sewer or whatever.
Probably it was, you know, infrastructure facilities wasn't adequate, but keep in mind that this doesn't kick residential out of residential. It just opens up the potential, and I guess if you did zone this, would be, what, 600 feet deep from the corridor?
yeah, I'm not quite sure
Okay.
whatever you guys discussed that
Got it.
you think it would be
Got it.
adequate, we'll bring some, like, maps and you look it over, but, right.
We'd like to think that it opens up some opportunities for the landowners that could look towards commercial buyers, help the town with the tax base at the same time, create a few jobs, and just open up the opportunities for the landowners that are now getting surprised about their water and their soils and the feasibility of them maintaining tax base. And the example is, if these corridors opened up, let's say 201, 139, whatever, and let's say some commercial guy came along and said, hey, we're going to manufacture widgets, and we're going to pay you, you know, $100,000 for your 20, 40-acre farm here, it starts to set a comparable value for valuation and resale, again, to help the landowners that are going to deal with some of these issues that are all new to us today. Another item that was discussed besides this corridor, and it's just think about it, and please talk to your neighbors, see what their say is on 139 and
201.
201. The other discussion with the council was in the area of the comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2014. And if you go to page 148 and start looking at our goals to achieve, the first 3 or 4 goals on that, in that document, we haven't started yet, and Nicole gave me information, and not started. And the items I'm referring to is the downtown program, whereas there was discussions to put a walk bridge across from the intersection of Western Avenue and Main Street to get to Mill Island for a walking bridge, and utilizing Mill Island more, and also discussion about utilizing the foundation systems that are from the log drives just upstream from the boat launch right across the street here, to maybe put a deck over the water or a park down there, turning towards the river, using this parking lot a little bit more, and really supplementing and complementing our businesses on Main Street that have invested a lot of time and money, the pizza shops, the restaurants, do something downtown to thank and complement those businesses that are struggling to survive today. And maybe by having that little deck or park or overlooking the water down here, that people would take a pizza or take a delivery of pizza or restaurant down to that waterfront park or that waterfront deck, and again, trying to help our downtown businesses survive and stick around. So there was some discussion about the economic development on the waterfront and the downtown of Fairfield, to include the walking bridge, the Mill Island Park, and something down here. There's a great piece of land here that's not being used for anything. I drive upstream, and there's these brick foundations sticking out of the ground where the mill water wheels were, and some of those systems could be utilized for Fairfield to use their waterfront better. So we had that discussion, and I would like that on an agenda for the future to discuss. Not that we're going to start spending money today on things like that, but it was in our comprehensive plan 6 or 8, 7 years ago. We've done nothing about it. We need to continue to invest in our downtown and our waterfront and retain the good businesses that have been good to come here and stay open on Main Street. We've got a good-looking Main Street. We need to take care of it, and we need to turn towards the waterfront and make these businesses have a great reason to stay here and more to come. So that's just my personal opinion, and I'd like that on an agenda for us to continue to pursue that discussion with the town to fund at least some engineering for this walkway, and give our downtown and our people that live in Fairfield a great walking trail through our great parks and our great real estate on our great waterfront. We need to do more, and we need to do better with what we have down there.
I think that's not a bad idea, just reviewing the comprehensive plan and looking at it and saying, okay, we're going to expand these commercial areas, but what have we done within that area?
Correct.
To warrant, I mean, if somebody was beating down our door saying, hey, we want to come to Fairfield, we want a spot, and we can say, okay, well, heck, we better look at this and look at it heavily. But if we've got a comprehensive plan, and what you're talking about, sometimes you got to spend money to get people to show that we're committed to doing this and doing it the right way and planful way. But if we just open it up, then we can do that for the reasons you mentioned. But if we're not doing anything on a comprehensive plan to entice businesses,
right.
And what type of business do we want to bring in? Right now, we've got the marijuana industry that's pretty well represented in Fairfield. And then we've got solar panels.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
And if you look at some of the opportunities with some of those buildings just down this road on Main Street, where their location is, I mean, look at what they did with the Liberal Cup. This would be a perfect spot for something like that with 3 colleges right in, walking distance. Well, it's a hell of a walk, but if you're drunk, you don't care. But if we could look at the comprehensive plan and say, okay, this is what the town has approved, and what has the town done before we expand out to, I mean, we can make the whole thing.
Well,
But we're not doing anything.
The two issues might glove quite nicely together, to the fact that, A, if you open up these commercial corridors to some commercial development. And wouldn't it be cool if we went to our 7-year-old comprehensive plan and actually implemented some of the items that we haven't implemented in 7 years? But wouldn't it be cool to have a business looking at Fairfield to buy and build and be on 201 or whatever, and then inviting them to come have a lunch with the planning board down on our new deck on the waterfront overlooking the Kennebec River, and have Meridians deliver cheeseburgers to a group that's looking at Fairfield and thinking, wow, this would be a cool place to live and stay, and look what you're doing and look what you're investing in downtown. Yes, that does dovetail to open up these commercial corridors for development, and yes, we do have something to sell here, because you know, how many towns don't have the Kennebec River going through the middle of it? And how many towns don't have this big Mill Island Park that has a huge amount of history? So we need to invest in our, and get a return back to our downtown people.
Exactly.
And yes, the comprehensive plan and this development concept we're talking about, the both things work together.
And if you look at like the expansion of the storage units, you know, that's somebody coming in and doing something. Is there a way so you can get a little bit of revenue to help, you know, improve the Fairfield downtown area as part of that fee?
Well, a $2 million expansion in storage yields a tax bill of X.
Right.
Okay, X needs to be reinvested.
How many services do they require of the town?
Exactly. So
Right there, you're getting your
the only thing we've
contribution.
done is really said, the fire chief went out, did his analysis and said, you know, you have to have this, this, and this. And really, when you think about it, there's no kids going to school, you know, like Kevin indicated with some of the other areas. If we could somehow take that money and reinvest it back into the downtown area, because ever since the hardware store, wherever that was, I mean, that land's been available forever.
Yeah.
And, you know, we ought to be able to go out and somehow lure somebody and say, hey, have you guys ever thought of doing this? And I don't know who does
What's
that.
going to lure people is the fact that you've got some restaurants and some businesses on Main Street, and if you turn towards the waterfront and do some cool stuff there, and these walking trails and these parks, and a business would say, gee, you know, I was on your new deck down on the waterfront, and Meridians and Sonny's delivered pizzas and food to us. We had a great time. We think Fairfield's got a lot going for it, and yes, we'd like to develop in Fairfield. Just the fact that you have an active Main Street, I mean, we've got a lot going for it, the grocery store here, these restaurants. We need, you're right, reinvest some of that on our waterfront corridor to retain and attract more people. And again, we've got some great parks and waterfronts. We're not using it. These old foundations sticking out of the ground down here, I mean, these are massive. The foundations are 6 feet wide, okay? I mean, they had to have held massive structures of some sort at one point.
Yeah, I think they were all sawmills.
Tall sawmills, yeah. And what amazes me is right where the bridge is, they figured out how to put a hinged dam in. How they did it, I don't know. So they could dam up the water between Mill Island and Main Street. And that dam, the hinge, they had several dams that blew out in high water. So they figured out how to put a wood-framed hinge dam in, somehow drain the river, close it, dam it up, and that power generated ran all those mills. Okay, there was 16 saws in one mill that Kendall's did, and it was all run by power generated in that channel underneath the Fairfield Bridge, where these foundations are that we want to develop and overlook and reclaim. And keep in mind that this generation of power right here started the trolley cars and started block manufacturing. And he said that he would build his wife a castle, and the castle that this guy built for his wife is Laurie Brothers Funeral Home. Right out of the riverbank there, right at Emery Brook, and Emery was the guy's name. And if you guys want to do a little bit of history, go to the cemetery on Emery Hill, which is right up near the apartments, and there's a cemetery there with a cast iron fence around it, and sitting there are the all the graves of the Emery family, it's called Emery Cemetery, because that was Emery's land, and kennels.
I think one of those was the first one born in Fairfield. wasn't it?
Yes,
I
yeah,
think the biggest thing, I think, is that people don't think big enough, because when they want to put the college out here on Western Avenue, the biggest thing that people talked about, the sewer. It's going to cost a lot of money for the sewer. And I said, you want a sewer or you want a college? If you want a college out there, you build a sewer to just, but the
Right.
big talk was about what's going to cost for a sewer.
right,
There wasn't any talk about what's the college going to do for us.
that's correct.
But the campus they put in out there, Goodwill Hinckley, out that area, we went out there, my wife and I went out to the Bates Museum. There's a hiking trail out there. We went and we hiked that a couple of weeks ago. And that friggin' campus is beautiful.
Yep.
That's a gorgeous friggin' campus. There's a lot of money that was put into building that thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look anything like it used to look like.
Right,
And so there's commitment.
There is.
But if we make a comprehensive plan and we don't implement anything on it, well,
Right.
okay, we plan good, but,
we didn't follow through.
well, it's just like a politician, or if anybody in here is a politician, I apologize, because I'm not a politician. But they'll promise you the friggin' world, and they'll say, yep, I'll get that in for you. And when you have a problem, and you go and approach them, oh, I can't do anything about that. Bull
Right,
crap, you
right,
can't.
right.
So if the town wants to have a comprehensive plan and expand it, okay, but on what grounds are we expanding it, other than we make it more open, and I get it. But if you're not doing anything, all it is just on a piece of paper saying, we're going to make that salmon colored as opposed to blue.
Well, yes and no. The commercial land use district is a lot less restrictive. Right now, you have a very tight land use ordinance, and it restricts land so much on those state highways that it really pushes commercial development to start looking for land maybe on a town road where you don't want that heavy traffic, and you don't want,
Right.
because then the taxpayers, those roads aren't built for that type of traffic
Right.
and that type of weight. So right now, they're restricted because even though someone has a large piece of land that could accommodate a commercial developer, it's in the wrong zone, you have to say no. It's just a no, flat out.
But if
No.
we do that, and I do think, if you go 139, for example, out to Melody Ranch, okay, you've got a bunch of stores, and you've got a bunch of businesses there already.
Right.
You know, that's not that big a leap. 201's not that big a leap.
And
really, to be
those are
honest.
the only two that are being,
Yeah.
that's what the comp plan
But
said.
when you look at them, it's just like, okay, maybe I'm a little, in this case, the glass half empty. And I just want to know, okay, so we do that. If the traffic does increase, it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone going down the hill there. I mean, if the traffic does increase, what's it gonna, the state runs that road.
Correct, that's their road. That's meant
So they're
for,
gonna be responsible for.
Correct.
Any turn lanes or anything like that goes in.
for any developer that comes in, they're going to want a traffic count like this developer that came in front of you tonight. They can't even do the expansion until they reach out to the state, and the state, like when Big Apple wanted to do their Dunkin' Donuts, they nixed it because they didn't want to have to create a turning lane.
Right.
So Melody Ranch was for sale. I don't know if it's sold or not, did it?
It was under
I don't
contract,
know.
that fell through, it's being remarketed now.
Okay.
Who knows?
Just
I
as
don't know.
commercial, right?
That is not. It's raw, it's blue. See, it's baby blue. So it's a commercial building, but it was built before your land use ordinance was adopted. So the structure was there. It was used as a dance hall. So today, if somebody wanted to do a dance hall in that location, you know what I mean?
But did it fall through because it's not a commercial
No.
zone, or it just?
I
fell
don't
through
know.
because of
I
what?
don't know the
It fell
details
through
of it.
because the park guys didn't have plans. Thanks for coming.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Did you say the plot guys? Oh, okay. They got a good location now, I think. They're building like hell out there.
So the real
Okay.
discussion is, do we look, and we're only discussing it, towards utilizing those commercial corridors of state roads better than we have been doing
Yeah.
to promote decent development? And again, keep up the resale value of those properties in those areas.
And you mentioned 600-foot setbacks.
A lot of times, these zone corridors have a dimension. So it could be, you know what I mean, so many feet back.
From the highway.
From the highway, 400, 500.
Right.
And being commercial highways, they're state regulated with DOT. So if some guy comes along and wants to put a Dunkin' Donuts on Norriswalk Road, you're paying for the turn lane.
Yep.
Okay, so the state makes them do the improvements necessary. So,
Findings of fact.
That's where it's going to be, but I really would like to see somehow
Are you going to be around? Well, I won't be.
somebody
Probably going to be.
go out and really
Wednesday or Thursday?
You can email it
talk
to me,
to
I'll
certain
email it back to you.
businesses to fill out
Oh, you'll scan it back?
Get it back,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
the
We'll do
buildings
that.
over here across from
Or be Wednesday or
Cumberland
Thursday.
Farms,
oh,
It might be
out down
Wednesday.
that way.
oh, don't worry.
Only
The,
to this.
Because that, to me, looks like, I mean, you talk about the water and the frontage, I mean, that's
But I got it in my.
a restaurant, you could put a real classy restaurant. And Meridian's, you know, God bless those two young guys, I mean, that restaurant they had was nice, it was expensive for this area, but it was good food, and it was, and they were getting food from local farmers.
we want to try to support them.
Yep,
And try to keep them in town.
yep, and I don't even know if their restaurant's open now.
Oh, yes, it is. They're doing takeout only, and they do selected in-service. Again, if they survive and we hit the end of this year, there is going to be discussions about the economic development plan to try to utilize some of this water frontage and finish what was started 7 years ago
Right.
and left as a project to be done, and nothing's been done. And that's the point of
And the
discussion.
problem too, really, Kevin, is the next 4 years, who knows what's gonna happen?
Who knows what's going to happen?
92 down here, you got the shoreland zoning, which prohibits a lot of things.
Yes and no.
I know when they built that new, now it used to be an old mill, but now, I mean, we went to a planning board, to a meeting, and the shoreland zoning, you know, it's like 90 feet from each side, so, actually, by the ordinance, you couldn't build anything,
Well, it
but
just
the
means,
town council said, yeah, it's all right with us, so they built that down there, and it's like we said, they just gave them carte blanche on the,
and what are you talking about they built?
well, what's that? There's a housing down there, right, as you turn on the Mill Island?
Oh, yes, the elderly housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause,
Elderly apartments.
I mean, they had Mrs. Henderson and all the other people in town, and this big place for the old people here, but you got shoreline zoning, wow, we have to pay attention to that.
Well, I don't know who was on the planning board in the past, but I agree, there's probably some things, I've looked at development that seems a little.
Because we were sitting in the back of the room, and one of the members of the council said, I make a motion that whatever they need to do, we'll give them to do it. And we just said, well, they just gave them carte blanche, so they could,
Yeah,
the heck with the ordinance or whatever they,
right, well,
and that was a
thank you.
shoreline zoning, it was a state.
Actually, that's just a draft, so what I'm gonna do is. I'm
But
gonna
they
take
made
the
that motion
secretary,
there.
And I'll have Lawrence.
Whatever they need to have, we'll let them have it.
A rough draft that we worked on.
There's what, 75 feet or something, and the island, I don't think, is more than 150 feet wide.
Right.
So technically, you couldn't build anything there, but you get enough people sitting out in the audience wanted it, and they convinced the council, and
Wow.
the planning board sitting in the back of the room and say, yeah.
Item 7 on our agenda tonight, adjournment of the planning board meeting.
All right, second.
All those in
I've
favor?
got item 8 on mine.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wait.